Hello, and thank you for watching us today. I am Chin Chin, the Chairperson of the ISCA Ethics Committee. The International Ethics Standard Board for Accountants, or IESBA in short, has planned for global roundtables to obtain stakeholders' input to help shape the development of a new ethics and independence standard for sustainability reporting and assurance. ISCA is proud to host the Singapore leg of the roundtable at ISCA House. With heightened public interest and demand for comparable, consistent and trustworthy sustainability information, we applaud IESBA's commitment to take on timely action to develop a fit-for-purpose, globally applicable ethics and independence standard for sustainability reporting and assurance engagements carried out by any assurance providers, whether professional accountants or not. Today, we are very pleased to have with us Mr. Mark Babington from IESBA to share more with us on this topic. Mark is an IESBA member, Chair of IESBA Sustainability Working Group, and the Executive Director of UK Financial Reporting Council. Mark, welcome to Singapore.
Thank you.
Okay, why don't I start by asking as to what is the driver behind IESBA's commitment to develop ethics and independence standard for sustainability reporting and assurance engagements?
Well, it's really important. Look, sustainability information is being used for capital allocation decisions in markets. And therefore, it's really important to all of our stakeholders that information is as trustworthy and as reliable as financial information that would traditionally have been used for decision making. And one element to make that information trustworthy and reliable is to have high standards of ethical behaviour and high standards of independence that govern those that assure the information, and indeed those that provide the information to be assured. So therefore, we at IESBA have decided to move quickly to meet this growing need.
So IESBA has started this project with two streams, one on sustainability and the other one on use of experts. Perhaps you can elaborate a little bit more on this two stream?
So in a sense, the first stream has two components to it. One is about ethical requirements, and those ethical requirements apply to both those who prepare information and those who assure that information. And part of it is to ensure that they have appropriate skills, that they act with professional competence and due skill and care, and that they're not associating themselves with misleading information, very much the sort of issue that you'll have heard about with the risk of greenwashing. So what we're going to do is update material in parts 1, 2 and 3 of the code to deal with the ethical requirements arising from sustainability reporting. We also have a challenge over independence for assurance engagements. So one of the things that IESBA decided early on was that it was important that those carrying out assurance engagements were as independent as those who carry out an audit. So therefore, we need to update material to ensure that sustainability assurance practitioners are as independent and therefore are seen as being trustworthy and able to give a good service in assuring sustainability information. So that's the first block. As you say, the second block is use of experts. And that's because we recognise that both the preparation of sustainability information and its assurance may require the use of different experts to that found in a traditional set of financial statements. So no longer a valuation expert or an expert in financial instruments, but someone who understands greenhouse gases, someone who understands the impact of a business on climate, someone who understands how a business may need to act if it's going to decarbonise. And that might require engineering skills, other things that are not traditionally within the scope of our work. And therefore it's really important that we take account of that in revising our code.
IESBA has talked about developing a profession-agnostic standard for sustainability reporting and assurance. One of the challenges I can foresee is how to get non-professional accountants who provide assurance on sustainability to comply with this standard, especially when they do not belong to any professional body. Does ISCA already has plans in mind on how to tackle this challenge, and would you be able to share them now?
Well, I don't have all of the answers, but there are three things really. The first will be IESBA needs to work with regulators in each jurisdiction and global regulators to make sure that where we rely on cooperation with regulators to extend the framework to take account of people who are not professional accountants, they do so. So therefore we need to stress the importance of bringing this work within a regulatory scope so it's seen as equivalent. So that's really important. But secondly, it's also really important we engage with audit committees and those who commission this type of reporting and assurance. So we should be saying to audit committees, if you're commissioning this type of assurance, you should be saying, I want you to carry out this work to a high standard of ethics and a high standard of independence. So the IESBA code, or something equivalent to the code, will give you that framework. And I think the third thing, until we get regulatory action, is it's going to be really important to demonstrate that the code gives a high standard so people can voluntarily adopt it as well, and therefore ensure that when they are bidding for work, they can demonstrate that they're operating to high standards of ethical behaviour and high standards of independence.
I know you're moving on to another city for the next roundtable. With the conclusion of this process, I'm going to ask the question on everybody's mind. When can we expect the standard to be issued and effective?
So we're going to be issuing our exposure draft before the end of this year. We still have some work to do, so we'll be meeting in New York in June for our next board meeting, and we'll be doing a first reading of the independence part of the code at that meeting. We then will need to follow on with subsequent readings of the ethics parts and also of the experts' work. We also need to decide as a board how we're going to place that work. So we talked today about whether we integrate it within the existing code, have a new section to the code, or indeed a completely new code, and the board's got to decide on that. But we recognise that the ISSB is going to finalise its standards shortly, and therefore, and indeed in Europe, the requirements of the CSRD come into effect next year. So we've got to have something that is fully finalised in 2024 so it can support those engagements. So for standard setters, we're working very quickly.
Yeah, and that's a really tight timeline. So thank you, Mark, for sharing your time with us today, and also all the best with tackling this project. I'm sure the audience have benefited from your generous sharing, and we look forward to the ethics and independence standard in due course.
Thank you. I was going to say it's really good to be back in Singapore again and learn from your perspectives as well here. Singapore is very much a global operator, and the movement of capital and the development of sustainability reporting is a global issue. So it's great to be able to come here and get your input.
Thank you, Mark. You're very generous to us in Singapore. And to the audience, thank you for your time for watching this.